Okay, I call this meeting to order. This is a regular meeting of the Northfield Public School Board. Today is Monday, September 25th, 2023, and the time is 6 p.m. This meeting is being live streamed and recorded. The recording of this meeting will be posted on the district website as soon as possible. Welcome members of the community here tonight to observe the important work being done on behalf of all school district stakeholders. Okay, Dr. Hellman, we have some items in the table file.
Yes, we have several items in the table file this evening. One, we have an updated State of the District presentation packet that just includes data for benchmark 11 around community education. We have several items in the consent agenda, including personnel items such as appointments, increase, decrease, change of assignment, leave of absence, and some resignations. We also have a grant application intended to support the Pellsby grant for mentorship and retention of effective teachers. And then we also have one addition to Director of Finance Val Murdestorff's preliminary tax levy presentation. This is the tax table that our financial consultants Ellers presented that was sent in the table file just a little bit ago. So we can talk with you about how the levy is going to have tax impact at various levels based on homeowners valuation. That is the table file for this evening.
Okay, thank you very much. If there are no objections, we will add these items to the agenda as we move forward. Okay, is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented? Okay, moved by Jeff, second by Amy. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We don't have anybody signed up for public comment, so we'll skip item 3 and move on to item 4, announcements and recognitions. Dr. Hellman?
Yes, I just have a few this evening. On Saturday, I had the opportunity to attend the annual Northfield High School Athletic Hall of Fame induction ceremony. And as always, it is a wonderful opportunity to see these alumni come back and be recognized for their athletic achievements during their time at Northfield High School. So there were 5 individuals who were, I'm counting, 5 individuals who were inducted in one team. And so we want to congratulate class of 2009's Cole Jurek, class of 1998, Frank Hubner, class of 2012, Marla Tomford-Nuger, class of 2009, Casey Wellman-Felling, and class of 2005, Todd Matheson. Those individuals were all inducted into the Northfield High School Athletic Hall of Fame. And then in addition, the 1979 girls basketball team was inducted, and many of them were in attendance. That team finished second in the state that year, had been undefeated until the state championship game where they lost, but the memories that they shared about how they were feeling down about that loss, and as they came back into town, you have to understand, think about it, Title IX was less than 10 years old, and this was a huge accomplishment for this team. And the way that these women 35 years later remember this story, or even more than that now, you could just see the pride that they had of how their community supported them, even though they only took second place at state. I won't list all of the folks here just in the interest of time. You can certainly look at the Northfield News article about it, but there was a little discussion about Tammy Metcalf, or by Tammy Metcalf-Filzen, who's the current head women's basketball coach at Carleton, and she spoke for the group. And I was just struck by a couple of stories about, as much as Northfield changes, it stays the same, that in 1979, going 1 loss the whole year, second place in the state, some of the best memories that they had were the need for them to protest. And they staged a sit-in in the middle of the gymnasium during boys basketball practice because there was not equitable gym access time for the girls team at that time. They also had to protest the fact that they were the only sport that had to share the locker room with their opponent. And so I think some of these things that we take for granted today, we do not want to forget the trailblazers who made it happen. Now, they also did admit to making sure that one of the windows at Washington Elementary School, which is now City Hall, was blocked open just enough so they could send their smallest player through the window, open up the gym so they could clandestinely practice because they didn't have access to the gym time that they wanted. And so I thought those were really heartwarming stories, but I think about the challenges that those young women faced and how they really have set the table for all of our other young female athletes as that they have come forward. So congratulations to all those who were inducted into the Northfield High School Athletic Hall of Fame. I also want to just thank Rice County United Way. They engaged in their Day of Caring event last week. Volunteers are recruited to support typically a lot of nonprofit projects for nonprofit agencies. And there were two here in Northfield Public Schools. One, there was a storage shed that had been awaiting painting at the NCEC, so a team came and painted that. And then, just making sure that our grounds are free of trash is an important thing, and especially going into the homecoming game on Friday night. So a team of volunteers spent about 3 hours picking up trash around Memorial Field. And you look at Memorial Field, it looks like it's in pretty good shape, but wind blows stuff around, there's trash, and it's not something we typically always have the human capacity to take care of. So these volunteers made a big difference sprucing up Memorial Field before homecoming. So we want to thank all of those folks who participated in the United Way Day of Caring. And those are our announcements for this evening.
Thank you so much. Board members, do you have any announcements or recognitions? Jeff?
Yeah, I would say that was out of my era in 1979. And I know relatives, number of friends or whatever on the girls basketball team, and being a member on the boys basketball team, we were always extremely proud what the girls did. And we welcomed them in the gym. I mean, it was a very, it was a good time. I mean, very celebrated moment, and just very proud to have the girls go to state and do as well as they did.
Very nice. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, thank you, Dr. Hillman. We're on to item 5, items for discussion and reports. And first up is the District Youth Council update. DYC members Connor Percy and McKenna Carlson will update the board about their plans for this academic school year. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Connor Percy.
I'm McKenna Carlson.
And we're your District Youth Council 2023-2024 chairs this year. We're very excited to present to you what we're looking forward to and planning for this year. So our purpose is to facilitate connections between the school board and the student body. That's kind of our mission statement. We have 3 subcommittees this year devoted to equity and wellness, student board relations, and student body relations. And then we have year-long projects and events to inform and lead the student body throughout the year. 2022-23 recaps. This is last year where me and Grace were the co-chairs. We ran multiple school-wide forums, which I'm sure a lot of you guys remember. We had the budget forum, which we were very thankful to have a lot of you guys attend and give feedback to the students and answer their questions and stuff like that. That was a huge success. And then we had the candidate forum, which I know that a lot of you attended as well, which was also a great success. We continued to stock period products, which this year, luckily, we have funding from the state now to do that. And we also created a name change guide for transgender and genderqueer youth who wanted to change their name in the yearbook or Skyward, just so people had an easy access to doing that. And a lot of other small things too, but those are just kind of some of our highlights.
And then we have some goals for the 2023-2024 year. And for equity and belonging, they are wanting to do a culture fair at the high school. So they will have like different tables with stands, possibly some food, and just like creating telling them about their culture so everybody can be informed and has like well knowledge of it. And then they're also going to continue doing the menstrual products until we have the fundings for that. And then for school relations, they're continuing to keep the school updated through posters, social media, all those different areas. And then board relations is currently planning a school board brunch and getting all the event ready for that with food and stuff like that. And then overall, we are just wanting to strengthen the connection between the school board and the student body this year.
Do you guys have any questions for us? Any comments?
Wonderful. Great presentation. Thanks for being here tonight. Board members, do you have any questions or comments? Amy?
Thank you both for your presentation. I just have a question about school relations and wondering what sort of information do you provide to other students? What are they looking to you for?
Well, we like to, I guess sometimes I kind of like to think of District Youth Council as kind of a student council with more kind of power to actually like push policy and stuff like that. So what we really want to do is we just want to make sure everybody knows that you can tell us things, you can provide feedback, your voice can be heard at school board meetings, stuff like that. Really just tell them that people do care about the youth voice and that we just really want to help amplify that for people. Do you have anything to that?
I guess just like with last year with like the budget and like the candidate forum, like that is kind of some information that we brought to them. And like if there's more events or topics that could come up this year that we could do.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Great. Okay, no.
What is the biggest issue at the high school right now for you?
Nice.
I'll think about that for a second.
Probably just like the AC and stuff like that, just regulation with that.
I'd say probably the school itself, the building for me. I know I'm leaving, but that would definitely be something I'd want to push forward. And I know this year, we've got a lot of stuff kind of being talked about. So
Thank you.
Okay, Corey.
Thanks for being here. What tools are you using to connect with your peers? I know that you've had an Instagram account in the past. I feel like the last time I looked at that was kind of inactive. Is there any progress toward using that as a tool, or are there other places you connect with your classmates?
I think definitely this year we are pushing more of the social media and giving that role to like the school relations, and me and Connor will be running that. And then also we like to put up posters like throughout the school with just information. So we'll be using that.
yeah, one of our main goals for this year when we started was just to really make sure our Instagram is active again. I heard that they might be making a TikTok or something like that, just to kind of really get people to know who we are and what we're trying to do.
Ben.
Thanks for the presentation and looking forward to being the UIC rep from the board again this year.
Yeah, thank you.
It should be fun. You don't have to answer now, but I would just invite you to think of ways, that you can prioritize sharing information with the board. Is there things you want us to know, kind of, or think about throughout the school year as the year progresses, and know that we're here to listen in that capacity. So looking forward to it, and just keep that in the front of your thinking.
Of course. Thanks for that.
Thank you. Great.
I'm good.
No? Yep. Anyone else? Yes, Jenny.
Thank you, Connor and McKenna, for being here. Are your members made up of 11th and 12th graders? Or is it just 12th?
10th, 11th, and 12th graders.
11th and 12th. Okay. How many members do you have for this year?
Yeah, like
17.
17 or 18.
I think it's 16 or 17. We grew our board this year. So
Okay, so you have more this year. How many did you have last year then? Do you remember?
I believe it was around like 14, 13, somewhere around there.
Okay, because I think that was possibly one of the goals last year. One of the first goals was to grow your membership. So congratulations on that goal fulfillment. And then I also wanted to ask on that note, how do you know that you're reaching, all 10th, 11th, and 12th graders when you're kind of in that recruitment stage?
Well, last year we did, we visited the BSU and we visited the Latinx Student Union, and we talked to them, kind of pitching what DYC was and getting some of them to join. And we did get a lot of applications from those two groups. And we've definitely improved our diversity on our committee this year, which we're very, very happy about. That was one of our goals last year. And yeah, I guess that's all I have to say.
And I can step into it. We do ask the adult leaders of DYC, does cast net amongst other adults in the school for recommendations about what students, would be good candidates for district youth council. Then those, and frankly, that's for all of the Youth on Boards program, not just the district youth council. Those students receive a letter, actual physical letter in the mail inviting them to apply. Of course, not everyone applies, but that's another way that they try to cast a wide net to increase the number of people interested.
Okay, that's awesome. So you're collaborating a lot.
Yeah.
Great, thanks.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Great. All right. Thanks, Connor, McKenna. Have a great year. We'll see
Thank
you
you.
soon.
Thank
You too.
you.
Okay, bye now. All right, item B is our superintendent's state of the district overview, and Dr. Hillman will present this overview from the podium. And he'll also share this presentation at the Chamber of Commerce luncheon, September 27th.
I always hate going after the district youth council students because it's a challenge. Well done. We're just so lucky to have such great student leadership. And as I've shared a number of times before, there's places that talk about elevating student voice, and then there are places that do it. And I'm really proud that Northfield is a place that actually elevates student voice. The last time I checked, I'm going to look back. I think we have over 70 youth on roughly 30 boards and commissions. Is that about right? 96 on, yeah. So 96 high school students are on around 30 or more boards and commissions. And the boards and commissions are real work, right? It isn't a, show up and have a nameplate, right? It is show up and be expected to roll up your sleeves and do the work. And as I tell the district youth council students all the time, and I think they'll back me up that it's true, that when they talk, the adults in the room listen. People are really interested to hear what the youth perspective is. So we're very lucky to have them and the work that they do. So that's not the state of the district presentation, but we might as well talk about that as we start. So I'll be providing this state of the district overview this Wednesday at the Chamber of Commerce meeting, but I like to give the board a preview before we present it publicly in that venue. So I'm going to be tailoring it to you tonight. Might be just slightly different on Wednesday when I share with the chamber. Our theme this year is Elevate. And I had never been a huge theme person, but a couple of years ago, we adopted the theme Forward to help us frame how we were looking at things coming out of the pandemic. And then we really weren't out of the pandemic. And then last school year, you might recall, we used the theme Reset, because coming out of this historic disruption, we were trying to reset our systems, reset our expectations. And that really resonated with people all the way through the end of the year. I heard people talk, yep, this is the reset year. And so as we were ideating this summer, we talked with a number of different in-district groups about what was the theme that we were looking for next year. And I had a few ideas. I would share some of the themes I had been thinking about. And we ideated a variety of different things to try to really inspire what are our next steps. And we decided on Elevate, and elevating everything, elevating our performance, elevating our services, elevating all of the meeting the expectations of the community and all of our stakeholder groups. And again, this is something that has really taken hold, that we are trying to elevate ourselves. It's a positive, inspiring message, but also signifies that we are expecting more of ourselves, and that we invite the community to expect more of us too. So you see this often. And if you're sick of seeing this, we are halfway there, because it is really important. You saw this with every single school improvement plan, the vision, our strategic commitments, and our benchmarks. And the reason we need to keep talking about it is it has to be something that walks the halls rather than just hangs on the wall. And so our vision to prepare every student for lifelong success by developing critical thinkers who are curious and ready to engage in our society needs to be at our forefront every day. And as the superintendent, I'm the chief vision officer. I'm the person that needs to keep casting what is the perfection we would seek to attain, and continue to work toward this vision that this board adopted just a couple of years ago. So when people say to me, Matt, we're tired of hearing you talk about vision, we know we're about halfway there. So prepare for more of it as we move ahead. The 6 strategic commitments that we talk about, again, you've seen these a number of times before, but I don't think we can talk about them enough. And I look at the strategic commitments as the lens in which we use to make decisions. Sometimes these strategic commitments can come into conflict, right? It's not always perfect, right? Not every single decision that we make or program that we institute aligns with just one. Our work is complicated. And so many times our work aligns with all of our strategic commitments, and other times you might see some kind of conflict, and that's okay, right? They are a lens in which we use to help guide toward that vision of preparing every student for lifelong success. We are a people-based organization, right? So schools exist to serve people. So that's what we do, right? When people will say to us, well, 80% of your budget is salary and benefits. How can you address that? Well, we can't, because we hire people to do good things for kids, right? And when we talk about people, we mean just that. All of the people that we interact with, we mean our students first and foremost, the staff who serves them, the family members who support our students outside of school, our community who is so generous in supporting us with their resources and their time and their faith and their confidence in us. So we look at this through the lens of people. We also obviously look at it through the lens of learner outcomes. We want kids to have the skills and dispositions to be successful in life. And so we measure a number of things, of which I'll report on to you here tonight. Equity. We know that equity is a term that sometimes can become controversial in education. I just don't understand it. Straight out, to me, when we talk about educational equity, our statement says we ensure that every child has a fair opportunity to reach their full potential. Put another way, every child has a genuinely fair chance to achieve whatever their version of the American dream is. And I think that's something we can all get around. When we talk about communication, our goal is to communicate effectively and transparently with all stakeholders, and you're only as good as your last communication, right? You can be communicating incredibly effectively for a long time, and if you make one mistake, that one mistake stands out. So we aim every day to do the best that we are able with the information that we have at the time and the time frame that we have to share it, to effectively and transparently communicate with all stakeholders. Stewardship is something we take very seriously. We take both the financial stewardship, the stewardship of our personnel and how we assign our personnel to make sure that kids have a good experience, the property that we have been entrusted with, the time that we have for instruction, and of course, our environmental impact. So stewardship means all of those stewardly things. And finally, we can't do this alone. And we're really fortunate in Northfield to one of our superpowers is partnerships. And we have so many wonderful resources in the community who are eager to partner with us. So partnerships is essential. And we're really happy to see this year, for the first time in a few years, we're really seeing those partnerships come back, right? Every organization that we worked with, they had their own time frame and how they emerged from the pandemic. And we're really seeing more and more people who want to partner and are able to do so. Very exciting. We always also talk about our anti-racism framework in terms of thinking about how do we make decisions through the symbolism lens? How do we make sure our own individual behavior truly treats every student in the best way possible for them? And then also making sure that the culmination of those individual behaviors make sure that our systems behaviors are truly responding to every student, regardless of their background. And so we put that at the forefront to make sure that the systems are working for the people. You know, we have 11 district benchmarks, and this presentation this year is really surrounded around these 11 benchmarks. District policy talks about that. I'll share with you an update on the strategic plan each year. And we have committed that these 11 benchmarks are things that we think are valuable to report to the community. So that's what I'm going to provide you this evening. We do report our benchmark progress. Oops, dump in the water here. That wasn't good. We do report, pardon me. I'm good, thanks. We are reporting our benchmark progress on our website. And so if you go to our website, you go to the strategic plan page, what you're able to do is you're able to see each of those 11 benchmarks. You're able to click the little plus next to it, and it will drop down and give you the latest results. Now, sometimes in print, from a print perspective, we would print an annual report. But we think it's more than that, right? So we are constantly, or not constantly, but regularly updating the district website with the latest data around reporting our benchmarks. So it is intended to be a living document. So even tonight, as I report to you, the data is based, or what I'm sharing is based on the latest available data. I'm going to try to drink my water without spilling it all over me right now. Thank you. So when we look at benchmark number 1, all children ready for kindergarten, this is essential because we know that when we get kids to the front door of one of our elementary schools ready for K, that handoff can happen and we can grow those students throughout all of their time in our school district. So when we take a look at children ready for kindergarten, 64% of all students based on our local assessment have been identified as ready for kindergarten. Now, if we take a look at that when we look at district preschool, so if you attended our district preschool, 95% of those students who attended our district preschool are identified as kindergarten ready based on that fall assessment when they come into kindergarten. Go one further, if you participate in our early ventures program at the Northfield Community Education Center, which is the most diverse early learning center in our community, 2 years in a row, 100% of those students were identified as ready for kindergarten. So when we had the vision in 2018 of an early childhood center, these are the results that we had anticipated. And so we're very pleased with the trajectory that we are on with all children ready for kindergarten. I'm grouping a couple of the benchmarks just for the purposes of time. So when we look at benchmarks 2 and 5, they focus on students' connections and the community. And so when we think about our youngest learners' connections to the community, this is one of the benchmarks that we share with Northfield Promise. And the current metric that we're looking at is what percentage of students, when they enter kindergarten, had at least 5 hours of some kind of pre-kindergarten experience outside of their home. 93% of the students entering in the most recent data had at least 5 hours of pre-kindergarten experience outside of their home. We are currently thinking about that benchmark and that particular metric. Is that the best way to report that particular metric? We're talking with Northfield Promise, not just as a school district, but as a community. Is that the right metric? When we survey middle school students, an important time for us to check in with them on how they're feeling connected to their community. We know that adults caring about kids and kids feeling that adults care about them is so essential. 84% of grade 6 students told us that they believe the adults care about them. And then, as you all know, our community school and middle school youth center is really the community school of our middle school. And you can see that we had 2,246 different community school or middle school youth center club sessions last year. Now, you heard an earlier report about some of the benchmarks that we had or some metrics that we had around community school participation. There had been some staffing issues and some things like that, but this still demonstrates that we are providing a tremendous amount of opportunities for our students through community school and through the middle school youth center. When we talk about goal number 3, it's really about academic achievement. And this is really about the academic achievement in a variety of different ways. And so I'm going to report it to you in more than just what the benchmark says. First of all, I want people to know that on the most recent MCA assessments, we outperformed state proficiency by double digits in all 3 tested areas. So we are really counter to the state narrative of lagging test scores. When we look at the Big 9 conference, because we know it's important to compare ourselves to other similar schools in many ways, and these are the teams that we compete in within our athletic conference, Northfield does very well in this measure. And so we were top when you're looking at the all students metric in reading, math, and science. So that means that when you look at the Big 9 results of the category of all students, Northfield was number 1, reading, math, and science. When we look at the results of students who qualify for free or reduced price lunch, Northfield had the top scores for that demographic group, also in reading, math, and science in the Big 9. When we think about English learners, students who qualify for English learner services, we were tops in the Big 9 in mathematics. And we look at students who qualified for special education services or an IEP, those students topped the Big 9 results in reading. And so we share that just to give you a sense of how do we compare to the same teams that we compete against in football and gymnastics, hockey, track, etc. When we take a look at the benchmark of grade 3 reading, which we know from research, if you are secure in your reading ability when you leave 3rd grade, the chances for your academic success throughout the rest of your school career are substantial. When we look at all of the schools in Minnesota who tested at least 10 students or more, Northfield 3rd graders ranked 21st of 316. That's an increase of 10 percentage points over 2022. And we saw an increase of 19 percentage points for students who qualified for free or reduced price lunch. And that bested the state average by 20 percentage points. So some really great movement forward and some great traction in grade 3 reading. When we take a look at grade 7, again, of schools testing 10 or more 7th graders in Minnesota, we ranked 22nd of 315 schools. That was better than 93% of schools offering that 7th grade assessment in reading. In mathematics, 29th of 315, better than 91% of Minnesota schools in that measure. When we take a look at advanced placement courses, 320 students took 534 advanced placement tests. More than 3/4 of them earned a score of 3 or higher, which for many participating schools, not every college participates and accepts AP credits, but for those that do, that would essentially qualify for college credit, depending on how the institution processes that. And then we had 99 AP scholars with honors or scholars with distinction. And this is based on the number of tests that they took and the earning of credit that they had. And so those designations equate to those kinds of levels. When we take a look at benchmark number 4, the physical, social, and emotional well-being, last year was the first time using a screener called the SSIS. This is a self-reported student survey that aligns with how we believe students are doing in this physical, social, and emotional way. And the fact is that this is really the first time where we had asked students to really self-report. There's some evidence to suggest that this is one of the best ways to really try to determine how students are feeling. And the results were pretty good. So 86% of 3rd through 12th graders who took the assessment or the survey reported that they had well-developed social emotional skills. So what does that mean? That means that they rated themselves highly in relationship skills, responsible decision-making, self-awareness, self-management, and social awareness. And then we take a look at 84% of 3rd through 12th graders were reporting no externalizing concerns. And what externalizing concerns are negative emotions or behavior that's directed primarily toward others. This could be verbal or physical aggression, can't control their temper, actively excluding others, those kinds of externalizing behaviors. And then finally, 80% of 3rd through 12th graders reported no internalizing concerns. When we think about internalizing concerns, the kinds of things that we would think about there are negative emotions and behaviors directed inward. Those could involve feelings of anxiousness or sadness or loneliness, some poor self-esteem, limited engagement with others. So those are the kinds of things that we are asking students about. And so certainly room for growth, but also showing that we do have a number of students, in fact, the majority of students who reported showing that they have some of these skills and that their at-risk behaviors are lesser than what we might hear in a national narrative. Still concerning, still focused, but just we think it's important to share that data. Goals 6 and 7 are really around students having a positive future narrative about themselves. So when a student sees themselves as successful in the future, that makes all things easier for them when they see that there's a positive future for them. So we measure this in goals 6 and 7 around goals, a future vision, and our graduation rates. So we survey students at the end of 8th grade, I should say, and in the latest data that we had from that survey, 90% of 8th graders had a vision for what they wanted to do when they graduated high school. It could be college, it could be the workforce, it could be military. And of course, that vision might change 15 times between the time they leave 8th grade and the time they leave high school. But the point is that they are casting this positive future vision of themselves. Then it gets to that point of our students graduating on time. And the latest grad rate that we have from 2022 shows that 95.9% of those students graduated in 4 years at Northfield High School. And when we look at the average ACT score, I'm not saying average ACT score is everything, but it is an indicator of, are you prepared for that next step beyond high school? Average ACT score of 21.8. And generally, I've seen many places say that, if you think about some of our really solid state universities, that 18 to 19 range is typically what you would get into some of our state schools. So that 21, and we typically outperform both the state and national averages on ACT scores. So we are a people organization, as we said, so parent and employee experiences are important. We continue to measure this on an annual basis. We did have a significantly lower percentage of families who participated in our parent experience survey last year. We're working to modify that approach a little bit to be able to get a better sample size this year, a more reliable sample. But we did have a 4.0 overall rating on a 5-point scale. And the thing that we were really proud of is 87% of respondents said either agreed or strongly agreed with, I am treated with respect at the school. Now, I'd like that to be 100%, but if you look at that as 9 of 10 people who responded, roughly 9 of 10 people who responded, as with all of your jobs, right? Not everybody is totally thrilled with you on a daily basis either. And so that can capture that there are times when we just aren't able to meet everyone's needs, though we continue to strive to do that every day. When we look at our employee results, 3.92 on a 5-point scale, 95.5% of respondents agreed or strongly agreed with the statement that they believe their work matters. Clearly pretty important, right? And then also, I think this was really a great indication of our strategic plan. that almost 88% indicated that they had clarity of what the district's vision and goals were. So I think those are really two good representative pieces. In both of these areas, the areas for growth really are around feedback. Families want more feedback about how their students are performing in school, and our employees want more feedback about how their supervisors think that they are performing. And so, of course, it's a numbers game, and this can be something tricky, but we continue to work on systems that provide that authentic and regular feedback, both for students and for families. So, excuse me, students, families, and employees. Stewardship, when we look at our stewardship goal, we have a goal, a benchmark of 14% of our annual expenditures in our fund balance. And this board and our community did some incredibly hard work over the last 2 years to make adjustments to respond to declining enrollment and a lack of housing in our community. And I'm happy to share that that hard work is paying off and that we're projecting a 15.9% fund balance for the end of this coming school year. That did not come without heartache. It did not come without a loss of services. But these are the adjustments we need to make now so that we can continue to be responsible stewards of the district's resources. I also want to point out that we do have Val will share a little bit later, our projected levy increase. Remember, our levy is different than our friends at the city and county, that ours is highly regulated. But I do think the reason I put this here is that Val won't say this in her presentation, so I have to say it, which is this is really the result of not just good, but superb financial planning on the part of Val and the board. So when we think about our average over the last 5 years, we've had an average of an increase of 1.55%. We passed 2 capital projects levy questions last November. People anticipated their taxes would go up, right? Because they voted for something to increase for the school. But because we timed that with the retirement of the debt from the middle school project and the Memorial Field project, we have now paid off the middle school and we have now paid off the Memorial Field project of 20 years ago. That modulated that overall levy increase. And I think that just demonstrates good stewardship, that as we're looking ahead, that we are able to make sure that we're timing those things in the best way that we can. And Val's got some, I think good news a little bit later this evening. Community education. Last year, we offered 942 community education programs, and there were nearly 100, I can't say nearly, but 149,164 facility hours used outside of the school day. Now, this does include both external and internal groups, but our buildings belong to the community. And this data shows that our community gets to use the buildings that they have paid for. This picture, I think, is wonderful. This is the first night of adult basic education classes for English at the NCEC. 23 people showed up. They say it's the largest first night class that they've had in some time. So it's clear that community ed programs are engaging and meeting the needs of people in our community. So finally, our last couple of items here, we all know about the legislature, and I just like to show people the legislature has been reported as historic and all of those things, and then somebody has to do the work. So these next 6 slides in what I believe is about 7-point font is what we are expected to accomplish from the 2023 legislature in the next few years. So this is the Gantt chart that shows us what year, when do we have to implement them. So I share this with you because we've all heard about the legislative work, right? But I think this visual of the Gantt chart is very helpful for people to take a look at that. I also want to just commend the board. I think that we read about horror stories across the country about school board meetings, a lack of decorum, how people just are not able to agree to disagree, right? They're just not able to have these productive public conversations. And once again, Northfield at this table defies that national narrative, because this board is known for not just good, but excellent governance. You are known for excellent governance. So it's a privilege to get to serve you because of that. And then I have a photo of Noel and Robert because I think this is just good law, right? This provision in the law that allows for elected officials to step to the side if they're not feeling well, allow the board to appoint someone to take their place in their stead while they are not feeling well, and then return, is exactly what a peaceful transference of governance is supposed to look like. And so we were so happy that when Noel was not feeling well, he could use that. He could step away. Robert could come in for 8 months, did an exemplary job, and was able to step out when Noel was ready to return. Noel was first elected to this board in 1980, and it allows him to continue in his term as the voters intended. I think these are, and when we often hear about governance that doesn't work, the Northfield School District is an example of how governance not only works, but it works exceptionally well. So what's next? We're implementing the READ Act. For you, I'm going to speed through this one because you've heard this all before, right? But the READ Act, these are my 4 of the 6 are my superintendent focus areas for the year. We're going to be working on, we have a head start, as you know, on implementing the READ Act. We're also accelerating our mathematics curriculum review by a year. We're not satisfied with where our mathematics results are as a district, even though we outperform many other school districts. We think that that can be better. And we have piloted some curriculum in some places where we have seen a difference. And we do think updating the curriculum combined with excellent teaching will really result for students. We continue to try to support, again, one of my superintendent focus areas, all of our traditionally marginalized populations in terms of making sure that our parent affinity groups give us the chance to hear the experience of our Hispanic parents, of our Black parents, and our American Indian parents. I have a focus on the legislature. That's that little 2-page summary document. I'm really proud to say that we're about 2 years ahead of where I thought we would be when we decided to bring ag back to Northfield. Our new ag teacher at the high school is just outstanding. Learned today that we will be getting the same FFA number that we left 35 years ago when the district cut the program. So the same FFA number that we had when we terminated that program will be our number moving forward. And for those people in the FFA world, that's a big deal. Boy, this water's really giving me trouble today. And so that's a very exciting piece. We're really excited about the really crossover between a lot of science, ag, career technical education. It's all very exciting. And then finally this year, as everyone knows, we're going to just have to have a good, honest to goodness discussion about the future of the high school. The facility has been well maintained. We've taken good care of it. I've shared with you several years ago in 2017, I shared that we were trying to have a vision to get ahead of those maintenance needs, and we were looking at it from an educational modernization perspective. Last year, we convened a work group. This board talked quite a bit about the future of the high school and the maintenance issues that we faced. And we shared with you, we were not losing sleep yet. Well, I'm going to tell you, we're starting to lose sleep. As our student representative said, just in the first month of school, we've had 3 pretty substantial maintenance issues that are being resolved, but it's not something that preventative maintenance could have taken care of. I mean, we've done the preventative maintenance. It is part of it is some of the age of these systems. So I will be giving you the information, and then you will help cultivate a community discussion about what's next for Northfield High School. So that is the presentation. I love this quote from Janet Napolitano that really talks about public schools. Public schools were designed as the great equalizer of our society, the place where all children could have access to educational opportunities to make something of themselves in adulthood. And so I think this is a quote that really inspires me, that public education is the cornerstone of democracy and has to function well in order for our democracy to function well. So this is a preview of what I will share on Wednesday with the Chamber of Commerce, and I'd be happy to stand for any questions at this time. And I promise I won't knock my water over again, and I won't do that on Wednesday.
Thank you, Matt. Terrific. Board members, any questions for Dr. Hillman? Noel?
Thank you, Dr. Hillman, for a good report. We'd like to report how the students measure up to the state, but it's the students who run the race.
Very true.
And the community, their peers, and families are in the background and in the wings. And they should be congratulated too on their success, the success of that.
Totally agree with you, Noel.
Nice. Anyone else? Amy?
That was a lot of information very quickly.
I think
Good
I did all right. I was 20 minutes, right?
Yep.
There we go.
So I just have some little questions. First, I think we need a Big 9 trophy that we pass around for the academic side of it. Could you take care of that? And
I'm pretty sure I'll be voted down.
okay, well, my question is, it's just about benchmark 1, where we had was it 95% of kids were who went to district preschool,
Mhm.
and I wanted to know who do you count with is going to the district preschool? Specifically, is ECFE included? And is that only if they do it when they're 4 and 5, or is it at any point? Do you have any sense of how we count those numbers?
So my understanding, and we'll validate this, is that these are students who attended hand-in-hand preschool.
It'd be interesting to see what ECFE did.
Absolutely.
Throwing that out to Erin if she's listening. Thank you.
She'll listen for sure.
Dr. Hillman, thanks as always. And other than your water bottle,
Yeah.
keeping an eye on that tonight. Are there other things that didn't show up kind of in the benchmarks that you went through that you're kind of keeping your eye on for this coming year that you would want to share with the board? Something that stands out.
Well, I think one of the key things that we're always looking at is the long-term funding, right, from the state. This last funding round really made a substantial difference. We know that it was very good. But we also know that they could not make up for 20 years of chronic state underfunding in one fell swoop. Another thing that I will continue to keep you apprised of that we just don't have the data yet tonight is our first enrollment report of the year, right? That's something we don't have quite yet. We're waiting for all of that to settle out, and then we'll get you that data. So those are two things. And I think the third thing is some work that we're continuing to do for the next legislative session around support that the state can give to districts for bonding. So we've pitched some ideas about how the state might be able to pick up some of the interest, et cetera. So those would be just a few things that I would talk about. And of course, continue to work on implementation of the READ Act and letters training, and all of those really important things are other things I would identify.
Thank you. Anyone else? No? Okay, very good. Thank you so
All right,
much
well,
for your
thank you, and
presentation.
I'll try to get over there without spilling my water one more time. Thank you.
Okay, we're on to item 6, which is the consent grouping. As a reminder, there were some personnel items added to the table file, personnel items in the table file added to the consent grouping. Is there anything anyone would like to pull from the consent grouping for separate consideration? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the consent grouping? Moved by Corey, second by Ben. Thank you. All those in favor of approving the consent grouping, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, item 7 is items for individual action, and we have 2. First, we have the activity sponsor partner agreement. The board is requested to approve the activity sponsor partner agreement with Community Resource Bank as presented at the September 11th board meeting. Community Resource Bank has agreed to pay $20,000 to be the sole sponsor of a new scoreboard at the district swimming pool. Is there a motion to approve this agreement as presented? Okay, moved by Jeff, second by Jenny. Okay, is there any comment or question or presentation on that?
I was going to ask Val would like any conversation here.
Any comments, Val?
Nope, just a thank you to Community Resource Bank for stepping up.
Very good. Okay, board members, any questions?
Yeah, my comment again is to echo that. That's just outstanding. I mean, what a stand-up thing to do. So I really, really appreciate that, community.
Nice. Anyone else? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, item B is the proposed 2023 payable 2024 property tax levy, and Director of Finance Val Murdesdorf will review the levy certification timelines and analysis of the preliminary levy. I'll take a motion first, Val, and then you can present some details on that.
Sure.
Okay, moved by Corey, second by. We get a second on that. Okay, Amy, thank you. All right, Val, will you fill us in?
All right, good evening. I am going to present the preliminary levy tonight. I bet it's on the slide.
But just after mine.
You had to go all the way back through your slides, didn't you? There we go. All right, so we are in the pay 24 levy certification. I know Matt said he didn't want to follow DYC, but try presenting the levy as the last late night meeting presentation. I think I get to take the award for that one. It's most exciting. So what is the levy? The levy provides about 25% of our general fund budget. It provides a small portion of our community education budget and basically all of our debt service budget. So it is a significant portion of our budget. In the spring, when I presented the budget, you might recall I had property taxes, state, federal, and local. So that property tax total is what I'm presenting tonight. So the numbers that we see tonight, pending any final changes, will be what gets presented next spring in the budget document. For debt service, we're required to levy 105% of our debt obligations. That calculation happens automatically at the state level. And then that is the revenue for debt service. The expenditures are just the payments on the bonds and the debt that we have outstanding. The levy does include both voter approved levies as well as state authorized levies. So there's a combination. There's a variety of calculations and formulas throughout the levy, which I'll get into a little bit more detail, but just know that it is highly regulated and all of the formulas are in statute. And there are very few things that we can do to change the actual number of the levy and how it's calculated. And it really, with it being a quarter of our general fund budget, really does make up the difference to allow us to offer world-class programming for our community. So this is the timeline for truth and taxation. So we are doing the preliminary levy tonight. You're required as a board to certify it by September 30th. I will send that information to all 3 of our counties. We are one of the lucky school districts to have a little slice in 3 different counties, not just one. So we are primarily in Rice. We have a small portion of Dakota and a very small portion of Goodhue. The counties will take that information for the preliminary levy, calculate the initial taxes, and then mail out those initial statements in November. And then in December, on the 11th, I'll be back and we will present our final certified levy. So what I'm asking tonight for the board to approve is what is called certifying at the max. So I'm showing you what the numbers are right now this minute, but I can tell you that as of 4:48 tonight, there was another run, and the numbers are slightly different than what I put in the packet on Thursday. So we are certifying at the max. So when MDE gets all of the formulas finalized, whatever those numbers and formulas are, is our ceiling. And we can choose to under levy between now and December. We have rarely, if ever, done that in my tenure here. I don't know prior to that, but typically we have certified at the max to ensure that we're maximizing what we can offer for our community. So then once it's finalized, that data then goes back to the county again in December, and then you'll get your official tax statements in the spring next year. And because we like to do things complicated in school finance, our county fiscal year runs January to December, and our school fiscal year runs July through June. So this revenue will be collected starting January 1 through December 30th. There's obviously 2 major collection points in May and October. But our year starts in July. So we will defer our initial revenue and it'll actually be revenue for our fiscal 25 year. And fun fact, the levy can have adjustments on it for up to 3 years. So we are certifying our preliminary levy for our next fiscal year, which is nearly a year away. We'll have a year to go through it and then 3 years of adjustments. So start to finish, 1 year of a levy is basically a 5-year cycle. It's really fun to keep track of. So the total pay 24 levy, this is the pie on the left is the total. So you can see the general fund is obviously the most substantial portion of the levy. It's about 83%. About 17.8 million is what that totals. Community ed is about 385,000 or 2%, and debt service is about 3.3 million or 15%. Of the general fund, you can see then to the right, the referendum is about just shy of $8.6 million, and that makes up nearly half of the general fund dollars. The capital projects levy is about 9% at 1.9 million. Now, this is the first time we're seeing the increase that the voters approved. Prior, last year and prior was 750,000, and it was roughly 3.5%. And then the rest of the general fund is the state authorized. So there's things like our long-term facility maintenance levy and operating capital, other post-employment benefits, and a variety of other calculations that are all authorized at the state level. So we are required to share with voters the levy broken out in these three separate ways. So the first way is just by fund. So you can see our pay 23 levy was about 21.1 million. And for pay 24, we're proposing about 21.59. Now, as of 4/48, it was actually 21.6. There was another $53,000 from an OPEB adjustment that went through. So still very close, 2.17% increase overall, which is very reasonable. We are also required to show it voter approved and other. So you will see there's 13.4 million of the 21 that is voter approved. So 62% of our total levy is voter approved, which I think is a testament to our community. $13.4 million of additional funding to do good things for kids is a wonderful place to be. And then the bottom breakout is referendum market value and net tax capacity. That is talking about the types of properties and their values and which formulas get charged in which ways. The primary difference being on the referendum for agriculture, if it's just the house and 1 acre, or if it's all of your acreage, is different for a bond versus an operating referendum. So overall, I think there are some pretty significant changes in between funds, but overall a 2.17% increase. So you'll see that 17.26%, about $2.6 million increase for the general fund. That is primarily related to the capital projects levy increase. There's some other increases because the formulas are enrollment driven. This is the year that we're anticipating our enrollment to basically stay flat and not be decreasing. We're anticipating it to start decreasing again next year. But that allowed some of those formulas and calculations to be positive this year, which is helpful. Community ed, you'll see declined 55,000, and I will publicly apologize to Erin Bailey for giving her a slight heart attack. It is not because their overall revenue is going down. It is actually because they changed some of the formulas. This particular legislative session was very intent on not increasing the burden on local taxpayers. And so there's two different formulas that were changed, and we're now actually going to qualify for state aid. So we're getting the same amount of money, but the state is just picking up more of the share of it. So that is actually a decrease in our total levy due to those changes that the legislature passed. And then debt service, you'll see is almost a 39% decrease, $2.1 million. And like Dr. Hillman said in his presentation, that is due to the bond paying off. That included the remainder of Memorial Field and the middle school. So that is a significant portion. And again, very proud of the fact that the timing works out well for taxpayers. We strive to make sure that you aren't seeing wild swings, at least in what you're seeing from the school district tax perspective. All right, so this breaks out the general fund in some greater detail. So you can see sort of the level of detail. The actual levy document is about 39 pages of 6-point font. I would stack it up against Matt's legislature document any day of the week. So you will see referendum is obviously our largest. We know that that is a significant portion of our funding from our very generous community, and that is increasing slightly, again, due to that enrollment and the dollar amount. We have the inflationary increase on that. So the state calculates what that is. The other big one is the capital projects levy, about $1.1 million of additional funding that will go into our operating capital and be able to be used for anything that we currently use our operating capital for. And then the other, you'll see the adjustments on the bottom is significantly higher, 939,000. Last year was 86. That can vary pretty wildly from year to year, depending on what's happening. There's a lot of different things there. All of these are based on estimated enrollment and estimated figures. The reemployment insurance is our unemployment insurance, basically. That has a $40,000 adjustment because we finally got through paying everything from the pandemic. And so we're back to roughly $2,000 a year in that normal unemployment. The summer unemployment's a different category that we won't go into tonight, but that the enrollment is really what drives a lot of those larger increases. So if what we estimated at the time of the levy came in higher, then they're truing it up to make sure that we are accessing every dollar that we were rightfully owed based on the enrollment that we served. So those are kind of the big ones. There's about $600,000 that was related to the referendum. There's about $120,000 related to OPEB. And I just want to call that out because that's our other post-employment benefits. And so when we increased our health premium 25% in 2022 and another 10.5% this past January, those rates also extend to our retirees. And so there was an increase in what we paid out for that, which we are able to levy for some of if they have a sunset clause in their contracts. We levy for the teacher portion of that. And so there was a significant increase in what we paid, and then the adjustment is catching that up because we had not anticipated at the time when we did the levy, if that makes sense. And then community ed and debt service, we already talked about, pretty status quo other than just paying off the debt. So overall, we're looking at about a $457,000 increase or 2.17%. Again, Dr. Hillman referenced this in his presentation, but we do strive to make it as consistent as possible for our taxpayers. And so 1.55% is our 5-year average, which I think is fairly impressive, and still being able to do good things for kids. So that is a lot of very detailed number information. So if you have any specific questions, I would be happy to answer them.
Super. Thanks, Val. Any questions or comments? Okay, Ben.
Thanks, Val. Good as always. Just on that chart with the red header under adjustments up to 3 years. I think you said, but can you remind us? I think I missed it in terms of, why that changed 850,000.
Yep. So about 600,000 of it is for the referendum. So whatever the, I looked it up and most of it was related to our Pay 21 levy, which was 3 years ago. And so that was right during the pandemic when we were really unsure about what our enrollment was going to do. And so we had some pretty conservative numbers and didn't see it decline as much as we had anticipated, which was great. And so this is basically truing that up to make sure that we got all of those dollars, even if it's 3 years later, we're still getting it and we will take it and put it to good use. But that's the primary one.
So that's essentially a function of the calculation that goes into the everything.
Yep. Yeah. The calculation, again, it's 39 pages of 6-point font going through every single calculation and state formula. But it's basically taking whatever the dollar amount was times the estimated enrollment and then comparing that to what we actually served and redoing that calculation and making sure that we got all of those dollars.
Thank you.
Yep.
Good. Did you have a question, Noel?
Val, do you know the rate of inflation of past year?
I believe it's around 6%. The referendum inflationary increase was 2.7, I believe. But
Or your.
Yeah.
Your projections are far better than the rate of inflation, which drives many of the costs.
yes,
Thank you.
yep.
Yes. Good. Anyone else? Questions? No? Make some comments?
I just would you like to talk a little bit about the tax?
Oh, I
impact?
totally forgot. I wrote it all down and I
I
forgot.
think
It
this
was
is
in the
really
table
important
file.
because and I'm gonna frame it as, and I can pull it up on the screen if Tim wants to switch to my computer for a
Sure.
moment. I have all the stuff. So I think what's important is that when you hear about the levy, right, remember that the levy is the flat dollar amount that we apportion then across all of the parcels of land in the school district. So when you hear the levy and people hear the levy is going up 2.17%, they might think, well, that means my taxes are going up 2.17%, but that is not the case. The levy is as Val described, it's the year over. How much did we levy across the entire district last year? How much are we going to levy this year? What's that percentage difference? But the tax impact is a little bit different. So I'm just going to grab and plug it in. Do you have it on I don't think you have it on that computer, do you?
I don't believe so.
So board members got this in their table file packet. Bring it up here. Because I think this is important for the board and for the community to see the difference between a levy going up and then what is the actual impact. And I'll have Val, as I bring it up, describe why you're going to see what you're seeing here. So Val, I'll just, if you want to walk through it here.
Sure. So this is basically taking the different types of taxable properties in our taxing jurisdiction. Again, these are spread across 3 counties. This is what you're going to see or what you're estimated to see for your school district. So we'll use 300,000 for the residential, just to pick a line to talk about because that's easier to talk about. So for pay 23, which is what you would have received in the spring on your tax statement, if your home was valued at $300,000, you would have been paying about $1,700, $1,719 in taxes over the year for just the school district. Now, there's other taxing jurisdictions. We only have control over the school district, obviously, and so that's what we're going to talk about. In pay 24, all things being held the same, i.e. your home did not increase in value, you would be paying $1,609 or about $110 less or 6.4% less. So the 2.17 is the percentage of increase we're going to see in revenue, right? It's the percentage over last year in our revenue. This is what homeowners are paying, or commercial or ag. And because it is based on our taxable market value, I would say on average, we've seen the taxable market value grow between 5 and 7% roughly. It varies depending on, whether there's a lot of commercial industrial growth or residential growth. That has slowed a little bit in the last several years, but I would say it's still been fairly much in the 5 to 7 range. And so when that increases, that means there's 5% more property to pick up this dollar amount and spread it. So if everybody stayed the same, but we added $5 million of taxable market, then it gets redistributed and everybody pays just a tiny bit less. And so the percentages are not linked in any way, shape, or form, which is hard for taxpayers to understand. But basically, if your home did not increase in value, you could expect roughly a 6% decrease. Now we know in this market that is really probably not the case. Home values have been increasing pretty substantially. But this is one way to show your taxpayer the school impact specifically. And so if your home value increases 6%, you could roughly expect to pay $1,719 again if your home was $300,000. That's another way to think about it. So We have one of the most complex property tax systems in the country, yes, but overall, I think this is really positive news for our taxpayers. We paid off the debt like we said we would. The voters approved the capital projects levy, expected an increase, and were able to actually decrease their taxes, which I'm very happy about. So did that cover what you were hoping for? Okay.
I just think it's important for people to remember that the levy is not the exact same as your tax impact.
Yep. And it is we certify an actual dollar amount. So tonight we're certifying the max, which is our ceiling. But in December, when we do the final, it is 21 million, whatever the actual dollars turn out to be. And that is what's spread on whatever taxable market base we have. And so there is some confusion from time to time about, if the tax base is going up or down, we're going to lose money or gain money. And that's really not how it works. We certify a dollar amount and whoever's paying taxes gets to pick up that tab.
Okay, very good. Any other questions, comments? Okay, thanks, Val.
You're welcome.
Yes. Okay, we have a motion to certify county auditors, the 2023 payable 2024 preliminary levy limitation and certification at the maximum authority. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion passes. We're on to item 8, items for information. The DYC brunch is coming up November 11th from 10 a.m. to 11:30. That's a Saturday at the Northfield Community Resource Center. Thank you, DYC. And then item 9 is our future meetings. Monday, October 9th, 2023, 6 p.m. is a regular board meeting here in the boardroom. It will be facilitated by Vice Chair Corey Butler. Dr. Hillman will be over Zoom and he'll be supported by Val in person. Our other meetings are October 23rd and November 13th. Both of those also at 6 p.m. in this boardroom. That is all the business that we have here tonight. Is there a motion to adjourn? Is there a motion to adjourn? Okay. Thank you. Moved by Noel. Second. Second. Okay, thank you, Corey. People don't want to end, I guess. Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned.